Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts either through their industry insights or information or simply learning from them. And today we have got senior lawyer Kapil Sankhla, senior Supreme Court lawyer Sir Kapil Sankhla, with whom we are going to discuss about a very interesting case popularly being known as Vilayati Kikar case. Welcome to the show, Kapil. Big
Thank you
welcome
for
to
having
you.
me over. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
having
much.
me over.
Thank you so much for joining us. Just wanted to ask, about this Vilayati Kikar case. Normally, we have seen resident associations and lawyers going to, National Green Tribunal and other courts to save plants. This is a different sort of a case where you want a particular variety called the Kikar variety to be removed for certain areas of Delhi. So we just want to understand the background of this case. So if you can give us a background on how this a foreign plant variety having its residence in India since so many decades suddenly became alien and dangerous for us, and we didn't know about it.
देखिए क्वेश्चन बहुत अच्छा है और क्वेश्चन का आंसर भी ऐसा है कि जब गोरे हिंदुस्तान आए थे when the foreigners Britishers came to India they also brought this particular species called Vilayati Kikar. There are two kinds of Kikar. One is Vilayati Kikar and the other is Desi Kikar. Desi Kikar is also known as babul. वो the same मंजन दंत मंजन वाला बबूल दांत जिससे अच्छे होते हैं. Vilayati Kikar, on the other hand, does not have the same kind of medicinal value, has certain medicinal value, but not the same kind of medicinal value. A background story ऐसी है that this Vilayati Kikar is a foreign species. And just like the Britishers who came to India, it takes away too much of groundwater, it kills the flora and fauna around, it changes the environment around, and it is a very greedy shrub tree. It takes a lot of groundwater, thereby ensuring that the other weaker species all die down. Now, when that happens, the life cycle को समझेगा. बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है कि हर पेड़ दूसरे पेड़ shrub, birds, animals, bugs, worms को life देता है. It's an entire life cycle. Now, when you introduce something foreign, you immediately start changing the environment of the life cycle. So what would happen, for example, if there's a small bug is unable to live in that foreign tree, it will die down. Because it would die down, then the animal or worm or reptile that eats that bug will also go away. Because of which, if there is a pollination that happens in the surrounding area of the flower dies. So you understand how dangerous it is. Now, this foreign kikar was brought in because in Rajasthan they realized that barren land, there weren't a lot of trees. The Britishers wanted to greenify the entire area, so they realized that there is this tree called in India, that's what we call Vilayati Kikar. We'll not go into the Latin name, but they realized that this tree can grow in any environment. It's like a shrub; it can grow in any environment, and therefore brought this tree to India. And this grew rapidly. So you will be surprised to know that in fact our Delhi's lungs, the ridge area, has innumerable amount of Vilayati Kikar.
Right.
But Vilayati Kikar could not convert to Desi Kikar, and they started hurting the environment around them. It instead of just growing vertically, it also grows horizontally. Basically, wherever it grows, it's a very greedy tree. It wants a lot of sunlight. It wants a lot of water. So in that ways, because it kills the entire flora and fauna, it is extremely dangerous. Now, when we realized it, and a lot of scientists realized it, there are a lot of scientific papers about this. They've been talking about removing Vilayati Kikar for a number of years now. In fact, the Delhi government also allocated 20 crore budget.
Right.
But because we have an archaic law that says a tree cannot be killed, you can't chop off a tree. The interesting thing is, what did the government come up with? That since we cannot kill it naturally, we are going to strangulate it. तो अब strangulation के लिए उन्होंने क्या करा? They realized कि giloy and some other creepers if you let them grow on that tree, the creepers also being greedy in nature, they surround the entire tree. They take away the light that this tree wants. It takes away the water that the tree wants, and slowly between 3 to 20 years
Oh my
manages
God.
to kill this tree. We just wanted to speed up the process because we want indigenous tree, हमारे जो पेड़ पौधे हैं,
Right.
or because our trees also have a lot of herbal values, Ayurvedic properties, to bring that life cycle back so that the indigenous tree, flora, fauna, animals, birds, butterflies, they all have created a natural cycle. So that is why this RWA, I'm very proud to say, the Vasant Vihar Resident Welfare Association, the D Block Resident Welfare Association, they all got together, and there is a gentleman called Mr. KK Garg. He took the initiative and they started this project to ensure that this particular park, we can remove these 30 kikar trees, we can plant indigenous trees, and we can do something beautiful with it.
Right. So when did people in the in the Vasant Vihar area, that is the Vasant Vihar Welfare Association, when did they come to know? I'm sure this is something they must be aware of, but when did they actually started getting active on this? And when they talk to you, how did they come to you, and how did you perceive this initially? Because you are a very, very well-known lawyer in deep cases, constitutional cases, high-profile cases, and this was a different sort of a case to you. And you must have heard it very nicely. Obviously, you are a very keen listener. But what was your initial reaction? That background is something I'm asking on behalf of our viewers.
That's a very interesting question, Ajay. I'll digress for a second. मैं
Yeah, yeah.
पिछले हफ्ते किसी लेक्चर में था, और as a criminal lawyer I'm asked this question every time, that are you in for the money, are you in for the power, are you in for the respect, what is it? And the presumption is that most criminal lawyers and constitutional lawyers are there in for the money. And the second question that they asked is that, do you also work for the poor and the needy because your fees cannot be afforded by a certain strata of the society? And I told them that not only me, but a lot of criminal lawyers and a lot of constitutional lawyers, Supreme Court lawyers I know, do a lot of pro bono work. And pro bono means that we're not charging anything from the client.
Right.
And we don't do this honestly because it's going to give us our names in the paper or any of those things, because you understand the kind of cases you go work for a minister, your name is any which is going to be there, industrialist. But you do it for two reasons. One, when you do a criminal matter, you believe that you're making some change to an innocent person, to somebody in the society. The second is, when you do matters like this, you believe that you're making some change for the better for the society in general. You may be aware that so we've done a lot of cases and we've done a lot of lobbying for a lot of issues. So if you remember, after the Delhi bus rape case, we were actively involved in reducing the juvenile age. And we had come up with the slogan that if you do an act of a major, you should be treated as a major. And we managed to successfully reduce the juvenile age. I mean, it was all because of journalists and media personalities like you that I had this forum to go and talk, because merely filing a case or a PIL or a writ would not have helped. I mean, there had to be awareness that there are at this moment terrorist organizations and organized crimes that are employing minors as mules. Mules होते हैं जिनको हिंदी में कबूतर कहा जाता है, जो ड्रग्स देकर जाते हैं, जो हवाला करते हैं. If they get caught, उनको जुवेनाइल की तरह ट्रीट करा जाता है. Those become inherently criminal in nature because they give a तमंचा और a छुरी and they said कुछ भी कर लो सजा नहीं मिलेगी because you're a minor. So if you do an act of a minor, I mean, if somebody is raping someone, then he's aware of the act. You can't say that there's no mensary, I'm not aware, right? So we did this matter. Then the other matter that I'm very proud of, again a pro bono matter, was changing the CNG laws, that the Delhi government would not allow the registration of a retrofitted vehicle of CNG vehicle, saying that only a vehicle जो OEM है, original equipment manufacturer की, where the vehicle is bought as a CNG vehicle, only those can be registered. So you would recall we fought this case, and then we fought this case for digitalization of the department, saying that Prime Minister Modi's call is Digital India. We don't understand why the Delhi government is not, and we managed to do that. And I'm very proud to say that Orissa government and 3-4 other states have now adopted that.
Right.
So when you do matters like these, when people come to you with matters like these, you feel extremely proud and happy that somebody's thought that you're worthy, rather than saying कि जी वो उसने उसका मर्डर कर दिया, वो DRI के केस में अंदर है, उसने ED फ्रॉड कर दिया, या आप बचा लीजिए. So when this matter came to me, like you, I was also very surprised. I said, "अरे, every RWA is fighting कि builders जो है वो पेड़ काट रहे हैं. You want me to get 30 trees removed? What are you saying?" And when my associates, my office worked on it, they realized that there are no good laws, there are no good judgments, because the courts have consistently held that you cannot destroy the flora and fauna of the nation, especially Delhi, because they said this is a death trap. As far as Delhi is concerned, it's highly polluted. But when we went deeper, and when we went through a lot of write-ups that were there, we were shocked to know that there are various issues where this issue of Kikar is being spoken about. We realized that this tree was brought in from Mexico to India. This is not a local species. This is a foreign species. Right. We got to know that there is a tiger population which is dwindling in Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve because of Kikar trees. Because the Kikar trees are destroying the natural habitat. Because the natural habitat is getting destroyed, the tigers can't hide. They are having territorial war. Tigers are dying. We got to know about a butterfly park where butterflies are dying because they can't pollinate with the plants and flowers that they're supposed to. So we actually realized that जैसे वो फॉरेनर्स जब इंडिया आए थे तो कहते हैं ना कि इंडिया की हालत चेंज हो गई थी, सोने की चिड़िया थी, सोने की चिड़िया नहीं रही, तबाह हो गई. We also realized that with this Vilayati Kikar, with this Vilayati coming in, the natural flora and fauna is dying. And this is a very serious issue. And because the laws do not have anything to protect the local flora and fauna, if there is a criminal, you send him to jail. You send him to jail so that the society can be protected. Now, here is a criminal that is killing other trees only so that it can survive. This is a Vilayati Kikar. So what we are doing is we're saying, look at the larger good of the tigers, of the butterflies, of the little shrubs and the trees and the flowers. And what was being done here is brilliant. I mean, we will talk about this, but I think what the RWA did, what Mr. Garg did, and this organization called EcoSick has done is brilliant as far as popularizing this methodology where you can grow a lot of trees. So when I was contacted, I was extremely proud. I was very, very happy, and I'm very happy to say that I'm blessed that I managed to get them the first good order in a case like this, as far as any case till now is concerned in India. Yes.
Right. So you approached the NGT, National Green Tribunal.
Right.
But earlier on there was a case like that. They must have approached the government authorities and they did not take so much of interest, or what was the case? They were trying to help, but they did not know how to help. And then they had to come to you.
What had happened is that various governments, we'll talk about Delhi government later, but various governments over the years have realized the fact that Vilayati Kikar is dangerous. They've realized the fact that it should be chopped, it should be cut, it should be removed. But as I said, our RKAC laws stop chopping of trees. So there hasn't been any initiative till now to remove these trees. So as I said that, what the Delhi government realized is that they said that what we're going to do is we're going to strangulate those trees. And there are reports to that effect. I mean, there are reports in various articles that have been published. There was a news article published in the Times of India in 2019 saying that there is a huge allocation of budget, saying that we are going to remove Kikar trees from the ridge area. But how removal was supposed to take place, as I told you, उन्होंने गिलोय के पेड़ लगाने थे, उन्होंने 4 अलग-अलग किस्म के creepers लगाने थे ताकि धीरे-धीरे they get strangulated. Now that's a very slow method. You can't wait for 20 years. Okay.
Right.
Then the other question that nobody could answer, and this was where the problem was, that they said that if you chop off a tree right now, it would take 5, 10, 15, 20 years for a tree to grow up. So till that time in Delhi, which is any which ways a gas chamber, is going to become a bigger gas chamber. So in that case, we, as I said, the RWA, the Vasant Vihar Resident Welfare Association, the president, he got together with the D Block Resident Welfare Association in association with a gentleman called Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg has written books on herbs and Ayurveda and how to live naturally. So he is an expert when it comes to understanding what kind of trees are good for the environment, good for human beings. He's the one who structured that we can actually adopt a park, and in that park we can actually have an entire ecosystem of herbal trees. We can make it to an effect that students can come, and he said that we'll make a mud hut there so that they can see how living without an AC but in a cold room is naturally. And then there is a society which is again an excellent thing, and I'm going to talk about that as well, the EcoSick
Right.
organization. Now what this
Okay.
EcoSick organization is doing all over India, you will be surprised, they are making small jungles. There is
That's nice.
that is yes, that is brilliant. There is a technology called the Miyawaki methodology of growing jungles. This
Okay.
is being created by a scientist in Japan who found out that you can make, in 2 to 3 years, you can make a jungle that would otherwise take 10 to 20 years. And that jungle would be so thick and self-sustaining that it doesn't even need to be watered now. And you can make it as small a jungle as you can make it in your house, or you can make it in a bigger place. Now, this Miyawaki system is that you grow the trees in a particular structure so that the trees that will go the tallest are in the middle, the trees that will grow as shrubs will be outside, and they will grow in a way that they feed each other. And EcoSick organization has done this in various parts of India. They've, in fact, I think, created Guru Nanak Ji Park in Punjab. They made something in Bangalore, etc. So all of these people, these experts got together. I mean, I'm not just talking about the RWA. Our applicant number 3 was an urban ecologist who's a scientist
Okay.
who's pursuing her PhD pertaining to these trees, etc. And she knew more about how dangerous Vilayati Kikar is. And we, of course, then we understood not just what a lawyer would understand, but we understood what an ecologist would understand, what a scientist would understand. We understood what this Miyawaki methodology is all about, how it has been successfully planted all over the world. And we understood how beautiful it is going to make this park. Now imagine this, Ajay, कि आपके घर के
Yes.
बाहर एक पार्क है, जो पार्क नहीं है, एक प्रॉपर जंगल है. जितना बड़ा पार्क होता है उतना एक जंगल है, जिसके अंदर जब आप आते हो तो आपको वही फील आती है जो एक जंगल के अंदर आती है. It's exactly the same thing. You can see the butterflies
और क्या चाहिए?
and
और क्या
the
चाहिए?
birds. Yes, and you don't need to water it. You don't need to take care of it. You don't have to do anything to it. You just leave that jungle be, because a jungle is living in itself. It takes care of itself. So when we
Right.
understood this, we could then draft something that the honorable NGT would understand and appreciate. It would understand कि ये कुछ builder lobby की game नहीं है. It is not something the builders are doing just to encroach upon certain land. It is not. There is no mala fighting. The honorable NGT also understood that, all right, these are very well-known, respectable people, not just of the society, but in this field.
Yes. Yes.
And in this field, they understand that what we are going to create would be replicated probably, hopefully, all over India eventually. They're the parks. You know, it hurts me, Ajay, when I go to any of these DD parks, I see 50%, 40% of it is all cemented. Park is not meant to be cemented. It is supposed to be a little wild. It is supposed to be very beautiful, and it's supposed to be extremely green.
Yes.
And with that vision, when we filed something in the honorable NGT, the NGT appreciated it, and it passed an order in our favor. It said the government will look into it. This is something that was never done before. So therefore, when all the right people got together with the right thought process, we were managed to get an order that nobody else has been able to get till now, to the best of our knowledge.
Right, Kapil. That was well explained. Now, going back to the time when those people came to you with, such eminent people in their field, especially in terms of environment, ecology, and all. Now, this was a
Right.
very different sort of a case. Why I'm asking this is that a lot of lawyers, people from the legal side would be, listening to you, viewing you, and try to understand, actually learning a lot how to build up a case like this, because this is a very different sort of case which is being fought in from Delhi, but there are lawyers everywhere across the country. And this sort of a thing, I'm sure this sort of a kicker must be in other parts of the
Yes.
country. Yes,
Yes.
isn't it? We'll come to that. We'll come
It
to
is.
that. So, how did you actually build up a case in this? Because it was not an easy case to present. Normally, people do not go to the NGT for a thing like this, and a thing
Right.
which was already under consideration by the government in Delhi government, but it was taking a lot of time. How did you mull over this, think about this case, and then worked on your strategy, then build up, went to the NGT? How was the initial response of the NGT? And you came to the time that you are at the moment, that they have actually asked the government to look into it.
Well, you're asking me for my trade secret now. How can I share that?
You-
but I,
I'm
but I
talking about
will.
learning for a lot of people.
No, no, but yes, yes, I appreciate it, and to share knowledge is always a good thing. I'll also learn something.
Yes.
You see, I have a process when a matter comes to me, especially a matter like this. The process is like this: that the first thing that we do is we find every judgment passed anywhere in India pertaining to that particular issue. That is done as a matter of course. There is a team of lawyers who sit down, who do legal research on every judgment that has been passed by any court anywhere in India. Then we go about and we see whether there is an international law, if that same issue is being faced in any other part of the world. Once we have that compilation, we go through every judgment and we see what other laws have been referred to. We also ask the clients to give specialized information. So what happens is that this is the legal matrix of it. In the legal matrix, we will also see कि किसी और lawyer ने कोई paper refer कर रखा होगा या कोई international law refer कर रखी होगी, international judge. We get an entire compilation. So we have folders this thick of the entire compilation of any judgment that has been passed. Then it is segregated into three parts. One is in your favor, one is against you, one which is more academic in question, which we might refer while discussing the law. So there are three compilations of the entire research that takes place. The fourth thing that we do is with the client, that we tell the client to give us specialized papers, expert papers. So for example, in this particular case, we had an expert paper, an article published by International Society for Tropical Ecology 2021 saying, is there any impact of non-native vegetation on bird communities in Delhi? And we found out that birds are dwindling in Delhi because of these foreign species. Because these birds cannot, जैसे thorny होता है तो वहाँ पे birds नहीं जा सकती. So they would need something which is green, luscious, but not thorny. Then we refer to another academic paper which said a comparative assessment of ecological effects of these trees on soil of revegetated spaces. We had another article, and these were all provided by the clients mostly, or something that was referred to any judgment somewhere where we said, we need a copy of this judgment to read it. I mean, there was another impact of invasive alien species Phosphorus juliflora on flora diversity of Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve, Tamil Nadu, where we discovered that the tiger population is dwindling because of this tree. Now imagine, Ajay, if you are a judge. If you are a judge and somebody comes to you, हमें पेड़ काटना है, you need to throw them out. But if we come and tell you, listen, this problem is not just faced in Delhi, but you have birds that are dying because of this, you have butterflies that are dying because of this, you have flowers dying because of this, and you have tigers, the population that are dwindling because of this one species. Then you will take interest, because you will realize that there is somebody here who's done his homework.
Right.
So at the end of the day, when you've done your homework, structure, composition, diversity of tree strata of semi-arid forest community in Delhi, India, Archana Meena Hanif, somebody in Delhi University wrote this article. This is pertaining to Delhi. So when you have articles like these, and we had like some 16, 17 annexures, 18 annexures. Of this, 10 of them were just research papers by different scientists. of Delhi, of India, talking about this particular tree and how dangerous it is. And this wasn't written now. It wasn't as if in 2021 में मैंने case डाला था and I went to some white paper people. I told them to write something. This had been written since years, decades. We showed them that Delhi government has come up with a policy. The Delhi government policy, unfortunately, is a non-starter because either there is lack of initiative or they don't want to do anything or because they can't do anything. But nobody's been able to take an initiative. There was a press release in Hindustan Times that Delhi government has taken initiative, but nothing came out of it. You follow? So when we had all of this data, now when you have all of this, Ajay, what you're supposed to do, I honestly believe that somebody says, if people consider me to be reasonably successful, and they ask me what would be the secret, I would tell them that I try to be a good storyteller. It's very easy to tell you legal jargons, throw a couple of legal jargons, a little bit of Latin. But if I bore you to death, then I'm not a good lawyer. The purpose of a lawyer who can actually communicate something to you so that it's interesting and it's bite-sized. So I think I would say expertise, but our foray comes in the fact that what we write, how we write, it's like an interesting read. And how we argue a matter is like an interesting storytelling. So instead of coming and saying this is the Latin word, the water reservoir, we came with the fact that there is a tree that was brought in by Britishers, which is now called Vilayati Kikar, which has been killing the indigenous flora and fauna. The danger is that it has killed the birds, the butterflies, and the tigers in India. It piques the interest of the NGT, as it would pick your interest or any of the audience that is listening, that they would be interested to know, अरे ये ऐसा क्या पेड़ है जो इतनी तबाही मचा रहा है, ऐसा क्या कर दिया इस पेड़ ने? And then when you tell them, listen, this sucks in the water table, it reduces the water table, so the local flora and fauna goes. When it goes, birds die, bugs die, small animals die, etc., etc. Then you understand, acha. If I would just start with this, there is an ecological life cycle. In 5 minutes, you will be wondering when is the break going to happen. So the trick is, one, you are legally sound. Secondly, you are factually sound. And then you make it interesting enough that people want to listen to you. That is your court craft. But the court craft is just hawabaji if you don't back it up with good law and good facts. So I think this is why they had come to us. This is why we were able to deliver. And this is how I hope to continuously deliver to my clients. Touch wood.
Right. So where does it stand now? Is there any time frame if NGT has set up in this?
So, as I told you, this is the first case that the NGT or the Honorable Supreme Court or the Delhi High Court, or to my knowledge, any of the High Courts have given a positive order as far as removal of Vilayati Kikar is concerned and spoken about the dangers of Vilayati Kikar. That's important.
Right.
Because nobody is really speaking about the dangers of Vilayati Kikar. So, now the NGT has said, the NGT in a 2-page order, this is dated 17th of February, said that we have gone through the petition, we have seen the grievance of the applicants, they want removal of 30 Vilayati Kikar, they have stated that there are various reasons why it cannot be removed, the legal reasons, etc. They have documented the fact that it changes the physiochemical structure of the soil, it's invasive in nature, etc., etc. And they said that the government departments are not replying to the genuine request, and therefore directed the Divisional Forest Officer, South Delhi, to look into the grievance of the applicant and to take necessary action if so required. Now, this is now under the test of reasonability. I am very pleased to say that after this department has woken up and at war footing, because the department also wants to do something, but they are afraid that if you cut the trees, तो NGT ने आके पीछे से डंडा दे देना है कि आपने कैसे ऐसे करके कर दिया. There's going to be a rap on the knuckle. So what had to be done is that they said that now that you have an order like this, we can actually genuinely look into this and find out ways to remove the Vilayati Kikar and put in local flora and fauna in terms of your request. So this has already started. This is कहते हैं ना कि 17 फरवरी से 17 मार्च के बीच में काफी लंबा डिस्टेंस तय कर चुकी है सरकार भी. Our clients as well, the resident welfare and eco-sick community has also reached gained substantial in terms of this order.
Great, great, Kapil. तो इसमें आप ये बताइए कपिल कि in some areas 30 Vilayati Kikars in the Vasant Vihar area, if I understand, but there are many across Delhi. What happens to those?
Yes. So in criminal law, there is this saying that it's difficult to get bail and there are multiple accused, you wait for the easiest, you move the bail for the accused that has the least amount of allegations against him. So जो पंजाबी में दे कहावत है, किसने कुंडा खोला, who opened the door. It's been a hard battle for the environmentalists till date. It's been a hard battle to convince the courts, the judiciary and the NGT that listen, you cannot paint all trees in the same green. Some trees are in the red, some trees are dangerous. It's been a hard battle to convince that not all trees deserve to live. That there are certain species that are more dangerous by their living.
Right.
That mere pruning them is not enough. You have to remove them. This is a very hard battle. The fact today that NGT has passed an order in favor of a private party, RWA, and directed the government department to take action in accordance to the plea of the RWA is a huge step. Let me tell you, for example, the case that we had fought for CNG. Our limited grouse was that the government, the state government, the Delhi government is not registering the CNG equipment that is installed. We raised the bar and we said that the problem that we are facing is that more than 70% of the CNG kits are spurious in nature. They are not imported through legal means. When a CNG kit is imported, you have to pay customs. Custom is electronic, it is digitalized. When the registration happens of vehicles, it is also digitalized. Why can't the registration and custom office have some kind of liaison to know how many kits are imported, what is their number, so that only those kits can be registered?
Right.
The idea of doing that was to make the issue larger, and this was allowed in Delhi. Now, after it was allowed in Delhi, it was adopted in Orissa and some other states as well. That they said that the registration office will mandatorily be digitalized. Digitalization will be through NIC, of course, the government servers, etc., so that they can all be integrated, and registration can be done automatically. You have to show the customs ka import number, so it is all automatic. Three things happen. One, red tapeism that we all know happens. Inspector, that went away. Inspector Raj, where you go for the registration inspector and you probably give him 500 or 200 rupees, that went away. Thirdly, spurious kits substantially reduced. Right. So you can imagine that one small step for one client whose concern was that why isn't the government allowing registration of retrofitted, post-purchase fitted vehicles, not allowing registration of the same. हमने उस इश्यू को लार्जर करा और एक लार्जर रैमिफिकेशन पे लेकर आए. ना सिर्फ एक अच्छा ऑर्डर लिया, बट वो ऑर्डर पूरे इंडिया में लागू हुआ. उसी तरह से the fact that we have got this order where the order gives due credence to the dangers of Vilayati Kikar and directs the government department to look into it, automatically opens the gateway to more and more people coming in and fighting similar cases. देखिए, अगर आपके बाहर फॉर एग्जांपल कोई पार्क है और वहां पे स्पार्सली दूर दूर कुछ विलायती कीकर लगे हुए हैं और उसकी वजह से वहां पे घास भी नहीं उग रही, कुछ और वेजिटेशन नहीं उग रही, आप अभी तक से रो सकते थे कि पार्क करता है. नाउ यू नो दैट यू हैव एन ऑर्डर ऑफ द एनजीटी, you can also make similar request and you can say that either the RWA, जैसे हमारी RWA ने कहा, we are going to adopt the park, हम अपनी जेब से अपने पैसों से हम वहाँ पे herbal plants etc लगाएंगे.
Right.
या the government can of course donate plants etc, but the important thing is it opens the door because it allows people to think that they too have a right to knock the doors of the government to tell them please wake up, please remove these Vilayati Kikars, please plant our indigenous plants, make our park green so that our children can play, so that we can sit in it, so that sham ko we can hear the birds chirping. And
Right.
that would be the change that this order would bring.
Right. Kapil, during your research, which are the areas in Delhi which are predominantly having this kikar plants?
देखिए बहुत अच्छा इंटरेस्टिंग बात है ये कि when we were doing this research we found out दिल्ली से बाहर एक बात बताओ तो राजस्थान में तो ये फैला हुआ है. There are places in Madhya Pradesh जहाँ ये फैला हुआ है. And again it is encroaching on the natural vegetation. But जो दिल्ली में है, you will be shocked to know कि हमारे जो lungs होते हैं वो the ridge को माना जाता है. Ridge area is supposed to be our lungs. और जो रिज एरिया है वहां पे सब्सटैंशियल नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट हुआ है विलायती कीकर्स का, क्योंकि जब ये विलायती कीकर उगते हैं तो एज आई सेड ये वर्टिकल से ज्यादा हॉरिजॉन्टल उग रहे होते हैं, तो उसके नीचे जितनी वेजिटेशन होती है, फ्लोरा फौना है, वो खा जाते हैं. इनके जो लीव्स होते हैं दे आर वेरी हंग्री फॉर लाइट, सो दे डोंट लेट लाइट फॉल डाउन. देन इसकी जो रूट्स होती है वो बहुत डीप जाती है और ऐसे फैलती है दैट दे सक इन ऑल द वाटर फ्रॉम द सराउंडिंग एरियाज. तो जितने रिज एरियाज हैं वहां पे जो और नेचुरल वेजिटेशन थी वो धीरे धीरे खत्म होती रही. और अब आप वही वाली बात है ना कि उसको आप नेचुरल, अगर आप ये सोचो कि और पेड़ मर गए तो सिर्फ वो बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है. तो जब आप सोचते हो कि उन पेड़ों के नीचे कुछ श्रब्स थे, उन श्रब्स में कुछ छोटे जानवर रहते थे, वो जो छोटे जानवर थे वो स्करी करते थे, उसके नीचे कुछ वर्म्स रहती थी. वो उन पेड़ों पे और उन श्रब्स के लिए कुछ बटरफ्लाईज और फ्लाइंग इंसेक्ट्स होते थे. उन इंसेक्ट्स को खाने के लिए वहां पे गिरगिट होती थी, कैमिलियंस होते थे, लिजर्ड्स होती थी एक्सेट्रा. Now you think that all of this and then a Vilayati Kikar comes in, it changes the ecology. तो क्या होता है कि उसके नीचे जो shrubs हैं वो मर गए, क्योंकि shrubs मर गए तो वहां पे जो छोटे जानवर रहते थे, it could be mice, rat, rabbit, anything, mongoose, वो भाग गए वहां से. अगर वो भाग गए तो there is nobody to turn the soil. The soil is not turned, अंदर जो worms थे वो नहीं, उनको खाने के लिए जो गिरगिट थी वो नहीं रही. सो द इकोलॉजी इज चेंजिंग. तो व्हेन यू नाउ गो टू द रिज, यू विल सी कि जो रिज है ना, रिज का मतलब क्या, रिज इज अ नेचुरल जंगल दैट यू क्रिएटेड, है या नहीं? एक सेल्फ सस्टेनिंग जंगल है. वो सेल्फ सस्टेनिंग जंगल इतनी ग्रीनरी क्रिएट करता है कि उसकी वजह से जब हवा वहां से जाती है इट बिकम्स कूलर. दी मॉइस्चर, जो बारिश वगैरह पड़ती है वो मॉइस्चर होता है वो अर्थ रिटेन कर लेती है. Now, unfortunately, if it is not a dense forest, it becomes a sparse green area, जहाँ पे दूर दूर कीकड़ के पेड़ लगे हुए हैं और वो नीचे कुछ और उगने नहीं दे रहे. तो क्या होता है, जो मट्टी है वो धूल की तरह उड़ती है रेगिस्तान की तरफ. So you have to continuously water the plant. Now, kikar takes a lot of water, so it's taking away your water from the soil. So therefore there is less water for the residents of Delhi, so you have to bring in more water from outside, right? Then ecology is changing, which means कि eventually जो हमारी birds हैं, आपको याद होगा, I think 15-20 साल पहले जब आप सुबह उठते थे, there used to be sparrows.
Yes.
Now you don't hear sparrows, you don't look at sparrows. You try telling your child about a sparrow, the child doesn't know what a sparrow is. And Delhi was full of sparrows. So that happened because when these trees, as they started encroaching on natural areas, those birds had to fly away. So, जो हमारा रिज एरिया हो गया, मैं रिज एरिया के बारे में बार-बार बोल रहा हूं because that's the most important part.
Yes.
There are areas जहाँ पे जामुन गवर्नमेंट ने जानबूझ के पैदा कर रखा है, वो इंश्योर करती है और पेड़ ना आए. but those are only the NDMC areas, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When you talk about the Lutyens Delhi, so to say. But when you're talking about the
yes,
normal part of Delhi, वहाँ पे पेड़ दिखता है तो एक बेचारा कीकड़ का पेड़ दिख रहा होता है जो ऐसे झाड़ की तरह फैला हुआ होता है, वो किसी काम का नहीं होता, उसका कोई और काम नहीं होता. विलायती कीकड़ है, नेचुरल कीकड़ होता तो कम से कम आप उसको नीम की डंडी की तरह काट के बबूल आप अपने दांत सफेद कर सकते थे, but that's not the case.
yes,
So
yes,
the ridge area when you walk on this is either tarmac for you to walk about, cemented road for you to walk properly, or just sparse धूल मटी वाली जगह जहां पे दूर दूर पे कीकड़ के पेड़ लगे हैं. And that is required to be changed now. There is a movement now to change this into making it into the natural jungle that it should be, and it should be so thick that apart from the walkover area, it's difficult for people to walk in that area. I mean, that's what I'm hoping to look at, and that is why I'm so excited about the Milwaukee methodology as well, because it's been done
yes.
all over the world, and it's actually a wonderful thing.
Right,
Ji.
right. And the good part, yes, yes. The good part is you said the forest department is now on a war footing. It's trying to do its bit for the Vasant Vihar area after the
That
NGT
is what I've been
direction.
told. Yes, that's what I've been
Yes.
told.
So,
Yes.
but yes, but for the forest department is not only for one area. I'm sure they are aware about its about the issues with the Vilayati Kikar, and they would get down to the ridge also and get rid of the,
Absolutely, yes.
yes, isn't it?
Absolutely. मैंने कहा
And
ना,
they would
because
get
अभी तक
rid.
ये डर होता था, हाँ, अभी तक ये डर होता था that if they do anything, NGT will come very heavily on them because they were orders against them.
Yes, yes,
The fact is that NGT has taken cognizance of an issue like this and passed a positive order is a huge step, even for the state government departments, for the forest departments to take some action. You can't afford to have a dwindling bird population or butterfly, and more importantly, tiger population. So this order will be used in these places, and that is my hope that it is going to bring change, a positive change.
right.
And
And
if the RWA is able to make the jungle that they're saying in the D block, that natural jungle, it would then be replicated all over Delhi and India, because they would realize that you can make small self-sustaining jungles. And that would be the beauty of it.
right, and I'm sure with lots of discussion on this issue, this particular issue will be understood better all across the country, because और लोगों के लिए तो कीकर हम यहाँ दिल्ली में बोल सकते हैं, पर वो उसको बबूल की तरह देखते हैं, और बबूल हैज ए वेरी क्लोज लिंक विद आवर पास्ट. कि बबूल का पेड़ हमने भी बहुत बार बबूल के पेड़ से नीम के पेड़ से जो दातुन करते हैं वो करते हैं. बट इसमें कपिल, एज फार एज यू हैव अंडरस्टूड, एक जनरल पब्लिक को, जो डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं, उनको जब तक अवेयरनेस आएगी, जो अलग अलग स्टेट्स के फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं वो भी शायद धीरे धीरे अवेयर होंगे, लेकिन जो जनरल पीपल है वो कैसे पता करें कि ये जो कीकर है या बबूल का पेड़ है ये मेरा अपना देसी वाला है और ये विदेशी वाला है? हाउ डू दे मेक आउट सो दैट दे कैन एक्चुअली टेक इट अप विद अप्रोप्रिएट अथॉरिटीज आफ्टर दैट अवेयरनेस?
देखिए, जो सबसे इजी तरीका है जो हमने करा था, we of course had experts with us, but when we were doing this case, we actually spoke to the forest department and to the afforestation department. We spoke to the Malis, etc., and they are the ones who guided us. The easiest way to do, I think, is हर सोसाइटी में, हर जहाँ पे भी आप रहते हैं वहां पे दूर दराज में डीडीए का पार्क जरूर होता है, और डीडीए के पार्क के बाहर बड़ा बड़ा हरे रंग से या सफेद रंग से माली का नंबर और नाम जरूर लिखा हुआ होता है. That's what I've seen. I think the easiest way to do is just contact that Mali, spend that 10 paisa, 25 paisa, know when the Mali will be there, ask the Mali, and the Malis would be very happy to guide you, because even they know that if that place becomes, देखिए माली भी तो काम करने ही बैठ रहा है चाहे कितना भी आलसी हो, पर अगर वहां पे उसको मेहनत कम करनी पड़ी क्योंकि सेल्फ सस्टेनिंग सिस्टम क्रिएट हो रहा है, he will be happy, he won't be sad about it.
Right.
You know, right now he's also tired of seeing कि उसको पानी डालते रहने क्योंकि सिर्फ आसपास सिर्फ मट्टी है. Now if you have a vertical forest जो ऊपर की तरफ जा रहा है, जो कम जमीन ऐसे कम ले रहा है, तो वहां पे हरियाली अपने आप होगी, ग्रीनरी अपने आप होगी, वो मॉडली सेल्फ सस्टेनिंग बन जाएगा. So the easiest way that we did, and I wish I knew I had a better answer to this, and I really hope that I had done that research as well. But the easiest thing to do is just to ask the local Mali. That is what we have done. I wish I had a better answer to this.
No, this is perfectly all right. That's what you are. Not an ecologist. As a lawyer, you have done a wonderful work, and you have been doing a lot of wonderful work. I just fail to understand that in 1920s, Britishers were so educated. Why did they bring it at all? And weren't they satisfied with the desi variety of babool or desi kicker? You can say. I'm still not able to understand because they must have brought it with some good intention or bad intention. How does it look like? What does it show?
You see, my research, and I love to read about the British in India, was that we weren't really being ruled by the British government. We were being ruled by a company. This
Okay.
was probably the first company in the world that was ruling a country, that took over a country. This probably was the only company in the world that was owned, operated purely by shareholders, where the purpose of the company was only profit and nothing else. So they weren't really looking at doing something good for any country that they were ruling, including China, India, wherever. Their purpose was what is the maximum amount of money they can extract. So, for example, when they went to Rajasthan and they realized that Rajasthan is very inhospitable, that Rajasthan में रहना मुश्किल है, there is no greenery, it's very expensive to maintain that as a state. They wanted to greenify it. So they did not apply their mind, and उस जमाने में शायद उतनी scientific knowledge भी नहीं होती होगी. उनको लगा कि एक पेड़ है, वो पेड़ ऐसी जगह में आराम से उग जाता है, उसको उठाओ यहाँ पे प्लांट कर दो. आज की डेट पे तो आप जानते हैं, जब आप अमेरिका जाते हैं तो आप आम भी नहीं ले जा सकते. Because they're afraid that the seed might germinate there and become an invasive species. You cannot take, uh, pets are very difficult. You can't take saplings, you can't take plants. So I think the knowledge now is much, much higher than it was at that time. The second thing is, I don't think they cared. I've read so many books on how the Britishers operated in India. I was reading about Lord Clive, and I was reading about a lot of others, and how the sole intention was not to create a good government for governance of the country, but to create good governments to extract the maximum from the states that they were in. So therefore they had no morals. हर सरकार का भी कुछ ना कुछ morals होते हैं. They have certain identity, they identify with a certain thought. The thought of the East India Company was how much money we can make. And because that is all that their thought process was, they were morally corrupt. And because they were morally corrupt, they had no long-term thought process except, again, how much can we extract. पर वो होता है ना कि नींबू को जब पूरी तरह निचोड़ दो, उसका जब लास्ट करते हो तो उसके अंदर से कौड़ापन निकलता है. I think that is what, that कौड़ापन is something that we are suffering from, and we as a nation suffered from after independence. This is one of their saugat that we have, unfortunately.
Right. Be that as it may, Kapil, but you have done a fantastic job. And this is just one
Thank
more
you.
addition to the fantastic work that you have been doing. A lot of public
Thank you.
interest work, public related work. And I'm sure with more and more time, more people will come to you with much more, bigger issues related to the welfare of public.
We'll do our
So
very
keep
best.
on doing
Thank
that.
you.
That's all I can say. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Hope to get you again very soon with something bigger. Thank you very much.
I would love to be here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.